Good afternoon. Today I'm going to try to read to you from the book Party of the Ages. I wrote this some time ago. In fact, in the note from the author it says, "This story was written shortly after the death of one of my favorite songwriters, Rich Mullins. It was also influenced by conversations with my family and friends. It is not intended to compete with the truth of the Bible, though I spent time in biblical study to write this. My goal was, well, if I succeeded, you'll know." Kathy Carmen Henderson. Party of the Ages. I couldn't believe it. The greatest party of all time, and I had an invitation. I walked toward the gate, proudly at first, and then with some hesitancy, as I saw the magnificence of the place I was going. It was more stately than Buckingham Palace, produced a deeper thrill in me than my first glimpse of the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and glowed white in a way that made the Taj Mahal look dirty. Tall, leafy boughs were my first indication of the wide expanse of its garden. Would I really be allowed inside? At the gate, I tried to smile bravely at the attendant and stated my name. He looked at me in a kindly manner, but with a question in his eyes. "Are you sure you have an invitation? Many people come here whose names can't be found on our lists." He patted a large gilt volume that lay on a crystal desk before him. I swallowed hard and said the words I'd been rehearsing most of my life. I accepted Jesus' invitation. Jesus! The question left the attendant's eyes, and he opened the book. He flipped through a few pages, ran his finger down a column, and it stopped by my name. When he looked up, his face was beaming. "Yes, your name is here. Enter into the joy of my master." The gate swung wide, and I strode forward with a thrilling mixture of success and awe swelling my breast. As I passed him, I heard the attendant sigh deeply. I turned to look at him. This time the question was in my eyes. He smiled, but I was surprised at the tears I saw as he spoke. "I'm glad I found your name. I never enjoy turning people away." I started to speak, but he waved me on. The path wound through an arboretum that surely put the hanging gardens of Babylon to shame. Every imaginable tree and bush and flower was represented here. In the distance, I could see sparkling waterfalls, mirror-smooth lakes, and wild animal preserves, though I noticed that none of the animals were acting wild at all. I passed signs that pointed towards riding stables, sports playing fields, and hiking trails. The door of the house stood open wide, and I entered along with others coming from various parts of the grounds. Greeted by more gracious servants, I was given a special jacket with my name already emblazoned on it with a cross-shaped symbol. As I put it on, it not only covered up, but it seemed to replace what I already wore. Music came from more than one direction and in more than one style. Obviously, my host had the finest bands at his disposal. I felt no sense of rushing, like I usually did at parties I'd been to before. I did not have to frantically seek out where I could start enjoying myself. The fun was all around me, and I knew I would have plenty of time to do it all. I turned toward a concert hall from which filtered strains of classical music. The melody sounded vaguely familiar, yet I couldn't quite place it. There was a hush about the whole room as I approached. Not one soul whispered. On the stage, A stocky European sat at an organ like I'd seen in pictures of cathedrals. A small sign on a delicate stand announced, "Today, Bach's Praises by Bach." Bach? This was no two-bit look-alike performer. This was the real thing. When the piece was over, I couldn't restrain my curiosity about the other music that I'd heard. In another room, I saw a golden-haired young man singing, accompanied only by a harp and a flute. I did not recognize the melodies at all. The closest thing I'd experienced to them were some Arabic dances at an ethnic carnival. As I began to hear the words, however, I recognized them immediately. "Great is the Lord and greatly to be praised." I looked closer at the singer. He wasn't tall, but he had the musculature of a seasoned athlete, and he was handsome enough to have made a success in Hollywood. "What is man that thou art mindful of him?" Suddenly it dawned on me. I was listening to the original psalmist, David. Stripped of the decadence of palace life, he appeared as the earnest young shepherd boy who sang out of pure joy. From another room, I heard sounds from my childhood. In the summer, the little church down the street had opened its windows wide to catch any passing breeze. Every heathen for blocks around would hear the witness of their favorite Fannie J. Crosby songs. "To God be the glory. Praise him, Jesus our blessed Redeemer. Redeemed, how I love to proclaim it.